Hello everyone, welcome to the Insights webinar. I do apologise about some technical issues we've been having, but we are trying to get everybody in as smoothly as possible. So we'll just give it a minute or two and then make a gentle start, just so we can get as many people in as possible. I hope you're all excited for today's webinar. Should be a pretty interesting one. Let's see. Great. I'm seeing some names that I recognize, so that's nice. And some new, a lot of new names, so that's good as well. So what I'll do is I'll just make a gentle start and I will share my screen. Okay. Hopefully that's visible for you. Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to our Application Insights webinar. Thank you for your interest in the Churchill Fellowship. It's great to see so many people on the call. I'm a smart read, but I'm a fellowship officer. I'm also joined by our head of fellowship, Abigail Campbell, and our fellowship manager, Ellie Smith. And our Churchill Fellow of the day is Siofra Caherty. This is the first of a series of webinars we're holding between now and the application deadline on the 4th of November. We will record them all and put them on our website along with the slides so you can review them at your own pace. We're also holding weekly drop-in sessions, which are less formal and more conversational, and you can find out more about these on our Eventbrite page, which we'll post in the chat at the end of the webinar. A quick overview of what we'll be covering today. First, you'll hear from Abigail about the nuts and bolts of how to apply for a fellowship and the support available for applicants and fellows. And then we're delighted to be joined by our current Churchill Fellow Siofra Caherty, who will share her experiences and top tips. Do post your questions in the Q&A function as we go, or when you've heard from our speakers, and we'll do our best to draw out common themes in the second half of the webinar. Don't worry if your question isn't answered today, you can get in touch by email, which we'll provide at the end. I'll now hand over to Abigail to take you through the presentation.
Thank you very much, Usman. Yes, and again, really lovely to see so many people on the call. And apologies again for making it a bit difficult to join, but we're really glad you made it. And we're looking forward to telling you a bit more about the fellowship and taking your questions. So just a bit of background. I mean, we presume that you know a little bit because you're here, you're interested enough to be here, but just so we all start on the same page, as it were. So we were founded in 1965 by public donation. So we're celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. And the donations that made the fellowship happen were small amounts paid into post offices by ordinary people up and down the country to form a living legacy for Churchill. So you can see the fellowship is built on people-powered change right from the get-go, and we're very proud of that. So today, the fellowship is a national network of nearly 4,000 individuals who are inspiring and influencing social change all over the UK. Churchill Fellowship is, as the slide says, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to follow your passion and immerse yourself for 4 to 8 weeks, that's the period of a fellowship, in learning from practitioners and innovators across the world, and then bring that learning back to inspire change in the UK. So Usman, Ellie and I are part of a team of 25, around 25 people. We're growing actually, so I'll have to recount soon, to support you through your fellowship journey. So our offices are in Westminster, just off Parliament Square, right in the heart of Westminster. But we as a staff team live right across the UK, so from Edinburgh to Brighton and lots of places in between. And our trustees and advisory council members are great sources of support, and so is the fellowship community itself. So although the fellowship is built around individuals, a fellowship is an individual award, it's also a collective experience, and yeah, we want to make sure you feel that you're not entering this enterprise on your own, and you're part of a collective. Next slide, please, Usman. So how does it work? Well, we have one, I think we're quite distinctive as a fund maker, in that we have just one application round every year, and that always runs from September to November. So if you apply this year and you are successful, your overseas learning would be taking place between the 1st of August 2026 and the 30th of September 2027. So there's a kind of 15-month period to do the overseas part of your fellowship. That said, we're very flexible. So if life gets in the way and you need a bit more time, you know, we're here to be flexible. So that's not set in stone. Similarly, the cornerstone of a Churchill Fellowship is overseas learning. That's the USP of a fellowship, I suppose. But you don't actually have to travel overseas. So you can choose to do your learning entirely online from the UK. You have to be learning from overseas sources of information and inspiration, but you can do it online. Or you can choose to do a mix of travel and online learning. So we're really keen to try and make the fellowship work for you, where you are, where your situation is in life, who you're caring for, what your work will allow you to go and do. So we try to be as flexible as we can. And your choice of how you do a fellowship won't affect your chances of success. The most important thing is that the fellowship works for you and where you are. So next slide, please, Usman. So who can apply? Well, the most important criteria are that you are a current UK citizen or an Irish citizen born in Northern Ireland. And we will ask for proof of citizenship if you're shortlisted. So like a lot longer down the line, but important to know from the beginning. And you must be living in the UK. This includes the Channel Islands and the Isle of Man. And you must be 18 or over, or at least have turned 18 by the end of this year. There's no upper age limit, and we welcome applications from people, all backgrounds, professions, ages, and levels of experience. And importantly, we want to emphasise throughout this presentation that we recognise and value both lived and learned experience. Next slide, please. Who we fund, who and what we fund, I suppose. So to succeed in a fellowship application, you don't need to be qualified or established in a kind of formal way. We're interested in your potential to make a difference to people and communities in the UK. So what really matters when you're making an application is your passion for and your knowledge about an area, and about an idea and an area, I suppose. And the idea you need to be able to demonstrate that that idea requires learning from other countries and that it will have public benefit to people in the UK. It could be something very specific. So, for example, in this year's fellowship cohort, there is a fellow whose focus is cheese making. So it can be very specific, very local, or it can be very big. So you can be focused on making change at a legal or a policy level. And again, an example from this year, in fact, there are 2 fellowships focused on enshrining the rights of nature in law. So another hot topic. So just that gives you an idea of the scale. Your idea can be a micro idea or a macro idea or anything in between, as long as you can make the case that change is needed and you are best placed to make that change or to help make that change. It doesn't matter if you're focused on an area that another fellow is already exploring. So if you go to our website and look at the ideas and experts page, that gives you a fellows directory of all the fellows that we have funded so far. So if you see someone is already looking at something that you're interested in, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't make your idea less valuable or less interesting to us, because every fellowship is unique, because it's the combination of the person, what they bring to the idea, and the focus of the project. So don't be put off if you find somebody is already doing what you've been thinking about doing. And then when we come to making up the selection, through the selection process, we prioritise people who've had limited previous opportunity to learn from overseas for many different reasons, or those who are less likely to receive funding from elsewhere, and those for whom a fellowship could be transformative. We will make, this coming year, we'll make around 110 awards in 2026. That's because we've got 11 programmes, and we'll make roughly 10 per programme, and I'll go into a bit more detail about that later in the presentation. I'm sure you're all thinking, well, what percentage of the applications does that amount to? Well, we never know exactly how many applications we're going to get, and it has varied considerably as we've gone through and over COVID. And I think hopefully we're reaching a more stable position. But just to give you an idea, in the most recent round, so last year we received just over 1,200 applications. And I guess it tends to hover in around that. But as I say, we don't know until the deadline day exactly how many we're going to get, but hopefully that's helpful. The next slide, please, Usman. Okay, so we're going to just go through, I'll go through in a bit more detail about the application process in a minute, but I wanted to just take you into the application form itself on this slide. It's actually on our website already, and we thought that would be helpful for you to just get a sense of what we ask for and what the application form looks like. It's not very long. This is the first application form. This is effectively an expression of interest form where you get to say why you're interested in applying for a fellowship. And we thought we'd just highlight here the 4 main questions that we ask. So the first question is about the change you want to see in the UK. And this is your opportunity to set out what the current situation is in the field that you're interested in, and what the problem or the challenge is, and then what you think needs to be different. It's basically, I think it's helpful to think about it as a research question or a design challenge. It's an opportunity for you to kind of distill what the problem is and what you want to do about it. And then the second question is your opportunity to say why it should be you and not somebody else doing this particular fellowship, why you're best placed to carry it out. And just a reminder that we are as interested in lived experience as we are learned. So, tell us what you think. It would be helpful for us to know to convince us that you are the best place to carry this fellowship out. And then the third question is about the overseas learning. So it's an opportunity to say which countries you want to visit and why you want to go, what's special about them. So we don't expect you to know exactly who you want to visit at this stage. We're not asking you to, put necessarily names and places and organisations, but you should be able to sprinkle in that answer some specifics. So some specific knowledge that makes us think this is more than just, you've read that there are high rates of well-being in Scandinavia and that's why you want to go to Sweden. It just needs to be a little bit more advanced than that without being basically an itinerary, because we understand it's an early stage of the process. And then the final question is about what you'll do with your learning, how you'll share it, who you'll seek to influence. And again, we know that at this stage you're unlikely to have all of that mapped out. And in fact, it might take you a very long time to know exactly how you're going to influence change, because change is complex, takes a long time, and is rarely linear. But we think this is an opportunity to give us a bit of a sense that you know what progress would look like at least, and to give us a little bit of a roadmap about what the steps you imagine you're going to take to share your learning and to influence change. So hopefully that's a bit of a helpful insight into the application form. I'll just move us on to the next slide, please, as well. So just on the spin side of that, we thought it would be helpful to summarise what the common reasons why applications aren't successful. So the first form is an expression of interest, and as I said, we don't expect you to know everything, but you'll need to sprinkle through enough detail for us to make sure that it feels like there's a potential fellowship there, both about the change you want to make about you and the overseas learning. So it's getting that balance. We're not expecting you to know everything, but you need to assure us that you have actually done a bit more than just have a vague idea about it. And just think about getting across the benefits to the UK. I think often people underestimate how important that overseas learning is, and making the case for why you can't do the learning that you're talking about in the UK, what another country offers you that the UK doesn't, why you need to learn from another place to make the change happen in the UK. So making sure that you get that across, I think, is important. And then just getting that in proportion as well. So as I said at the beginning, the fellowship is a period of 4 to 8 weeks. So again, it's being realistic about who you're going to be able to talk to in that time, and making sure that you're giving your time to immerse yourself, so not overdoing it, but also doing enough to give yourself enough learning to be valuable. So I realise I'm making it sound like it's a little bit of one and a bit of the other, but it's hopefully this is helpful. And then don't sell yourself short. Finally, just make sure that you get across what is distinctive about you, why it's you and not somebody else that's best positioned to do this fellowship. Okay, next slide, please, Usman. So the programs, they change over time, our programs, and these are the ones that we have opened for 2026. And I'm not going to go through them in detail because we don't have the time. And there is a lot of information on our website, and I do recommend you dive into each little web page for each of those programs. And there's a program brief for each program that summarizes the criteria for each program and what people are looking for. But those are the three new ones: building a society that cares, building prosperous and resilient economies, and making space for the arts. So they're new this year, as it were. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is the open option, which is there for ideas which don't seem to fit in any of the other programs. And then when you apply to that open option, there are little sub categories: a general open, health and wellbeing open, or a governance and public provision open. And you can choose where you put your application. And that open program is obviously very competitive, but we do make 30 awards through it, and then 10 through all of the others. So 110 awards in total. And I think the main thing that we'd all want to say on the staff team is it's that your choice of program won't affect your chance of success. In a way, it's the least important part of the application process. And that's because if we're reading it when we get your application in and we think actually it stands a better chance of success in another program, we will recommend to you that you move it, and we'll move it on your behalf, but we'll let you know. So it's not something to worry too much about. I hope that's reassuring. And I think one way if you're in doubt about where to put your application, it can help to think about which sector or group or community you most want to influence with your learning, or who you think is going to be most interested in it. And that sometimes can help you decide if you're caught between a couple of them. Okay, next slide, please. So we're on to how to apply. So there is a lot of information on our website to give your application the best chance of success. But I'd recommend looking in particular at the FAQs and also the program briefs that I referred to previously. And then I think I've also mentioned on our website, if you go to the Ideas and Experts tab at the top, you can access a Fellows directory, and you can search by year, theme, country, and other things as well. And you can often, fellows have said that they're happy to be connected. So there's a little form you can fill in if you're interested in getting in touch with a fellow to get their experience, to learn more about their experiences and help. They're very happy to do that. When you're ready to apply, you just follow that big red button to access our application form. At the moment, it says become a fellow, but from the 2nd of September, it will say apply here. So hopefully it will be even clearer. And I think that's the main thing I want to say there. I realise that we're probably racing against time, so I won't linger too much on that, but we can take questions. Next slide, please, Usman. We're just going to look at the timeline just so that you can understand where at the application window sits. So we open on Tuesday, the 2nd of September, and we close on the 4th of November. And then in mid-December, we'll let you know if you've been longlisted. And then in February, we'll let you know if you've been shortlisted. And then if you've been shortlisted, it basically means you've been shortlisted for interview. So you've reached the very end of the process. And the interviews take place in April and May. And they take place you can either do them at our offices in London or you can do them online. And we have studied the data, and there's absolutely no impact on the outcome depending on which you choose. So you're not putting yourself at a disadvantage if you decide to do it online. So genuinely your choice. And then you'll find out if you've been awarded a fellowship in early June, but we won't make it public until early July. So just so you know the timeline. And we'll go on to the next slide, please. We just wanted to give you a sense of the support that is available to you, because we realise it can be quite although we've tried to simplify the process as much as possible, it can be quite daunting, and it is an unusual funding approach, I suppose. So first of all, thanks for coming to this webinar. I think that's hopefully going to really be helpful to people. We've got some more planned, and we've got some drop-ins too, which are more conversational, and they're all available on our Eventbrite page, and we will make sure all the Zoom links are correct before we run any more. And if you'd rather speak to one of us one-to-one, that's absolutely fine. Please send us an email, and then we can fix up a time to have a chat. We're very happy to do that. And then when it comes to applying, if the online form doesn't suit you for any reason, just get in touch with us, really, because these are some of the ways in which we can help you. There is the Word form that you can use, or you could submit an audio recording, or we can also help act as a scribe if you find organising your answers difficult. But that's, we're very happy to try and meet you where you are and help you in the best way possible. So don't hesitate to get in touch. And we want people to be able to apply, so we'll do our level best to make sure that you can. We haven't put it on the slide, but just as a note, you can obviously, I'd say obviously, but there is no reason why you wouldn't use AI. We accept it can be a great tool, especially for starting off your thinking and your phrasing. But just remember that, as I said at the beginning, the fellowship is all about the individual and the uniqueness of the individual and your experience and your idea. So use it carefully, and make sure that you don't lose yourself in the process. And remember, at the very end of the process is an interview, so you're going to be, you are going to be representing your idea in person or online. Right, next slide, please, Usman. So the support at later stages. So if you are shortlisted, there is another form to fill in, and it's really the basis of how we work out a budget if you are successful. So it's an opportunity for you to update your thinking. If you've done some more connecting with people, or you've kind of refined your idea a bit more, there's an opportunity to share that thinking. It also gives you a chance to plot out a draft itinerary, so to tell us roughly where you want to go and for how long, and to estimate your travel costs. And then we use what you put in that form to calculate your grant, which is based on the number of days you expect to spend in each location, and your travel costs and other miscellaneous expenses. You can also indicate in that form if you would like to travel with a support worker or a personal assistant as a reasonable adjustment, and we will make that part of your grant as well. For this year, as a pilot, for two of the new programs, so the Making Space for the Arts program and the Building Society, a Society that Cares program, we're also piloting being able to offer some support to recognise people's caring needs, caring costs, or costs that might be associated with carrying out a fellowship if they are a carer, and also people who might be working in a freelance self-employed capacity for whom a fellowship might be difficult. So just for those programs, it's a pilot year where we're trying to understand what those two situations, what the challenges are associated with those two situations, and how we can help. And in the fullness of time, we very much hope to be able to share that more widely, but it's just for those two programs this year. The other thing that will happen in the shortlist form is we will take up your references. So you'll have been asked to identify referees in your first form, but on the shortlist stage, we will actually approach them, and we'll gather those in, and they'll form part of your application. And we are here to help with the shortlist form. That was a long-winded way of saying we're here to help if you need support. And when it comes to the interviews, again, we are here to help. They are only 20 minutes long, and we will do a webinar immediately beforehand, so you know what to expect. And we'll share the questions before as well. So hopefully that gives you some reassurance about those final stages of the application process. And again, we are here to help you. I'll just whiz through, I think, for interest of time, to the final slide, Usman, from me before I hand over. So we're just ending with a quote from Fozia, who is a Churchill Fellow from 2020. And I just think that's a really lovely summary and kind of invitation to apply. If you've got the feeling that something needs to be, so many things need to change, I think we could all agree. But if you've got a feeling about one of them and a passion for it, then do consider applying for a fellowship. I think that's a perfect segue to introduce somebody who did have that itch, Siofra Caherty, who's going to tell us a lot more about her fellowship, why she applied, what she did, And I think that's probably a good moment for me to stop talking. Thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry it was a bit of a long presentation, but I'll hand over to Siofra now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Siofra Caherty, and thanks for being here today. I think, am I able to click this, Usman? I think it might be better if I just share my own screen, because I don't think I can click through the presentation.
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, so will I just go ahead and do that version, yeah? Because I just tried to click there and it's not letting me click through, even though I'm a co-host.
Yeah. Does it let you share your screen now?
Yes, yeah, I can share my screen. So I'll just go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and okay, can someone let me know, is that okay? Can everybody see what I'm?
Yeah, that's so.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so as I said, my name is Siofra Caherty, and I am a Churchill Fellow from 2018. And today I'm going to talk about my fellowship, the application process, and my top tips. So I am from Armagh, in the north of Ireland, and up until very recently, I've been based in Belfast. This is a picture of me in my workshop. My background is fashion design, so I'll just briefly talk a little bit about me and my work, and then my fellowship before I talk about the application process, which is what we're all here for, really. So my work is, I have my own business called Jump the Hedges, and I make bags from reclaimed materials. I've also recently started making clothing from regenerative and organic materials too. But my work is all around sustainability and social awareness and community outreach. This is just some images of just some of my work. So with regards to recycled materials, I use like truck tarpaulin, the curtain sides of lorries for the bags. And then most recently, as I said, I've moved more into regenerative materials around a supply chain transparency. Obviously, the fashion industry is hugely complicated and quite toxic. So it's all about looking at who grows our clothes, who makes our clothes, who's part of the whole process, and how we can simplify and make this more clear and straightforward, so that everybody knows who's involved, and we're basically that it has the same transparency as the organic food chain. And then this project that I most recently did was called the Farm to Garment T-shirt project, and it very much did come out of my Churchill Fellowship from 2018, which, like all these years later, the seed for this project was planted with regards to my fellowship. So with regards to the fellowship, as I said, I got my fellowship in 2018. And for me, this was like really exciting, definitely was a life-changing experience. And for my application, my project was called Building a Zero Waste Community. And my application, I kept it very clear. And within that, I had 3 strands of research, and they were community, education, and design, like more like design industry. And with regards to that, I wanted to look at how zero waste sustainability applications were in each of those areas, because they're all interlinked and they all work simultaneously and organically. Like with regards to education, like what are designers being taught about sustainability, and then what's happening in industry, and then how's the community responding to this. So I visited many places. Just to talk briefly about my fellowship. For example, I went to a conference in Copenhagen, a factory in Zurich. I went to New York, Portland, San Francisco, and Vancouver. And I met businesses, social enterprises, educators that were all very much at the forefront of the sustainability movement. So that was hugely exciting to be part of that. And in 2018, the sustainability movement was really on the crest of a wave. Unfortunately, it's gone off that now, but at that point, people were really waking up to what was happening, and also personal autonomy and contribution. So, for example, one of the places I visited was a Park Slope Food Cooperative in Brooklyn. I went to the Recology Center in San Francisco, which was like the the coolest recycling center ever. I'm a bit of a nerd. I love like a good recycling center. I went to Bold Threads in San Francisco, and Bold Threads are responsible for the mushroom leather, which has been in the news actually over the past couple of years, a bit more. But at this point, it was very new, and they were doing tiny little collaborations with like Stella McCartney. And so like I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get in here, and it was getting to see behind the scenes, because the future of fashion really is going to be grown in labs as opposed to in the field. So everything I was seeing was very much for the future. Also, I went to this very cool paint recycling facility in Portland. So I've just put down pictures of kind of the ones that were like most exciting and most fun of the interviews and trips I did. And then this was a business in Vancouver that made products like doors, floors, everything from waste chopsticks. So to go towards the my 3 top tips. Number 1, I would say that it needs to be beyond your 9 to 5. As someone that, so I have my business, but I also lecture part-time at a university. So I'm very aware of the opportunities that exist within a university environment for research, and also how they're measured and how the impact is measured within a university context. But this needs to be something beyond that. This needs to impact your own immediate like community, whether that be like on a quite a high level, or whether that be literally your community, the people who live around you. So more than your job, really, like you're being paid to do that thing, and that's amazing that you've achieved that. However, this is about more than just your job. And on that, should your job be funding this? And then lastly, with regards to this point, what's holding you back? If it's beyond your job, then what has got you to this point that it's stopping you from moving forward? And also, how can this be of benefit? That's a key thing you need to consider the whole way through your application. Is this is bigger than me? How can this be of benefit to everyone else? Number 2 is all sizes of impact. And I think this is really, really important. For me, my impact was all about, again, it was the three strands of impact too. So it was looking at my immediate community within where I was living at the time in North Belfast, which is a very deprived part of Belfast, of the whole of North of Ireland, in fact. And I was able to design a whole range of community and school outreach programs that I delivered off the back of my fellowship. I also was able to put my learning within my business and develop products made from recycled materials that were interesting, innovative, and trailblazing in an Irish perspective. And then also from the education perspective, there's a huge application in my teaching of all my learning. I'm like almost on a weekly basis, I'm referencing something or someone I met or came across within my fellowship. So grassroots projects, like literally, if it's maybe you've organized a beach cleanup on your local beach on a Sunday, it doesn't have to be this very high level policy for government. Like that's hugely impressive. However, it can be small but meaningful impacts, because these things create ripples and can get bigger and bigger. And this fellowship can allow you to meet people and see things that maybe started at your level but grew so much more. Your local community. And as I said, it could be within, if you live in like an apartment complex, it could be within your apartment complex, or it could be within your street. It could be bigger, it could be your county, it could be your country, but it doesn't have to be a huge scale. And then how can a Churchill Fellowship bring this to the next level? So you've started on this one level, you've started maybe, for example, your beach cleanup, but you want to do something more national. But how, and maybe you've wanted to bring something else within it. How will a Churchill Fellowship allow you to go and meet people that will then allow your project or your idea to grow to such a bigger scale that it makes a bigger impact? And then lastly, passion is contagious. And this is really important. I've sat on the interview panels for the Churchill Fellowships, and you really can feel people's passion and that they're really into this, and they're like living and breathing it, really, you know, that it's something that they're like obsessed with, and they have they have read huge in-depthly into it. They've maybe tried to experience things. They've done as much as they can within their means. That's a really important point as well. You've done as much as you possibly can. Like maybe you're not able to afford to go and visit this site in Denmark or something, but you've managed to read everything about it that you're able to get your hands on here. So a clear track record for success, really, that you're reliable and consistent, that if you're given this Churchill Fellowship, you will step up to the mark and you will make the most of it, and you will use your learning for good. Expertise. Again, by expertise, I'm not saying that you need to be like a university lecturer or a professor, absolutely not. But you can become an expert in something yourself through learning on your own time. Like, we have access to everything nowadays. Like, there's so much information out there. So it really is possible to become an expert on an area of your own interest. And enthusiasm, like passion, it's really contagious, and it absolutely comes across in the interviews. And it needs to be something that really lights a spark inside you, and you can really see that on the panel. You know, the people that come in that are genuinely passionate and enthusiastic about this subject, and very much in a case of, I'm going to do it anyway. There's always a feeling of that as well. It's kind of, they're so determined to make a difference somehow. Maybe it mightn't be a huge thing, but they're determined to make a difference even within their own immediate community. So that's me.
Thank you so much, Siofra. That's really, really interesting. You've also answered some of the questions that have come in through the chat as we've been going on. So please do, if you have any more questions, either for Siofra specifically or for one of the team, please do let us know, either using the Q&A or the chat. We're monitoring both. But I'll start us off with some questions that are on the mechanics of the application. If that's okay, Abigail and Usman, I'll throw those in your direction. First of all, we have a couple of questions on whether or not you can apply more than once in a year, and whether or not you can apply under different themes with different ideas. Could you answer that one for us?
Yes, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so we accept one application per year, and you can apply under any program that you want, but we can only accept one application per year. So, yeah. Was there a second part of that question?
No, that's good. Thank you. Then I have a question about how many people are shortlisted each year, and also what makes a good referee. Abigail, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so when we say shortlisted, you're basically being shortlisted for interview. And the way that I remember the numbers is we shortlist 60, there are 16 interviews for each program. So I think that's around about just under 180 people. And we also identify a reserve for each program, so it's a few more than that, but that gives you a sense of the scale of things. And a good referee is somebody who really they don't need to know in detail what you're proposing to do on your fellowship, but they should have a rough idea, and then be able to speak to how you would be able to carry out a fellowship. So it's helpful that they know you, they know your personality, they know a bit about your work maybe, but not necessarily. But they can speak to you as a person and your ability to be a good Churchill Fellow. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you. One more question on the mechanics of the application. Abigail, I'll direct this one at you. Whether or not we're able to give any more specifics on the carer support that we're able to provide.
We haven't written anything down because we want to make sure that it's because we're learning about what support is needed. We want to have conversations with people to understand what their needs are, and then to try and respond appropriately. We're very happy to have informal conversations now. So if the person who's asked the question wants to know a bit more, I'd suggest they send an email to the applications inbox and we can book a time to chat. But the in detail conversations about what support is available would happen right at that shortlisting stage, so towards the end of the process, so that we could spend the time to understand what people need and come up with a plan. But it's very much an extension of the fellowship approach, which is trying to be very fair to everybody and try to understand where they're coming from and what their needs are, and trying to meet them where they are, which is why it's not a rigid, I haven't got a fact sheet on it yet, but hopefully that's of some help.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask this question is for Siofra. We're going to stick with it because it's a question about the application rather than about the next stage, which is travel. So they've asked what feedback, if any, you received about why you were successful and what you felt set you apart.
Very good question. I think I'm in the lucky position that I got feedback. I think more because, excuse me, I've done lots of things now with the Churchill Fellowship. I've had informal conversations with the people that interviewed me, and they have told me that it was my passion that set me apart, and my determination was a big part of it. Coming from the north of Ireland, I have like a huge sense of justice. And I think that was definitely part of it, that I was very determined to make an impact and to be a positive light within quite a tricky part of Belfast where I was based. And yeah, that was definitely a key part of it.
Thank you very much. We have a couple of questions on travel, which I think I'm able to sum up perhaps best as fellowship manager. So I'll just take those. They're quite easy. There's one question about taking multiple short trips within the 4 to 8 week time period. Yes, that's absolutely fine. I would say that the majority of fellows break their travel up either into weeks or a couple of weeks. That's absolutely fine. We also have a question about exactly how you work the leave arrangements with your employer. That varies fellow to fellow. Siofra, you were self-employed, so you perhaps don't have a helpful, don't have perhaps a unique perspective on that one. I don't know what you did while you were traveling.
Yeah, so I'm self-employed, and at the time I was part-time teaching, so I was able to go within the whole kind of summer period. And I know that there's fellows that have like split their leave. I was speaking to one of the recent people that have been awarded, and he's doing like 2 week blocks across the 12-month or 9-month period. And I think a lot of people tend to do that route. But what I've found is that when I ask people, and what does your employer think of that? Like the employer is normally hugely enthusiastic because the research is normally at least vaguely related to the person's work, like it might be like the guy that I'm talking about, he worked for the council and his work was going to kind of be related to that. So they were very positive and supportive in him taking the time off.
Great, thank you. We've also got a question about starting sooner than August for your travel. That's absolutely fine. We do it on a case-by-case basis. So if you're successful in your award, I think the question in particular was referencing a conference or something that's particularly interesting. So do just get in touch and we're able to facilitate that. We've got a couple of questions. One that is about being self-employed and whether or not as an applicant who's self-employed and the fellowship benefiting the business, is that seen as a benefit or drawback of the grant? Abigail, do you want to take
yes,
that
I
one?
mean it's how you make the case in the application. If supporting your business can support your ambition to make change, is consistent with your ambition to make change, then it's not a problem and could indeed be benefit. Yes, it's more about how it fits in the overall vision of why you want to go and learn overseas and what you want to do with the learning, and how you're able to articulate the benefit to UK citizens. So yes.
Great, thanks, Abigail. There's also one question about the online aspect, if it needs to be a specific course or a loose collection of experiences. We fund both, it can be either. So that's all there is to say on that one, really. It can be either. We've got some questions on the impact element, including one about reporting. So Siofra, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your report and how you conducted that and what time frame you did it in.
Yeah, so as I went along, I think is the best way to do that, like in a blog format, so that everything was able to be compiled at the end. Anyone that I have spoken to or anyone I've heard speak about their report, that's always what the format that seems to work best for everybody. And it also, to be honest, when you're doing your fellowship, it's a nice way to frame your time, is if you have like you maybe have an interview one day and then the next day you spend time putting all the information together and then being able to follow up with the person immediately if there's something you need to add in. So I would absolutely think it's the kind of thing that needs to be done as you go along.
Great, thank you. And did you write a written report, or did you do it as your blog? Was your blog your report when you submitted?
Yes, written.
Okay, great. Thank you. So there's also a question about the report format. So and whether or not it has to be that written final report you're talking about. As I perhaps just alluded to, and then Abigail, I'll let you take this question a bit more. We don't need it to be a final written report as if it was an academic paper or anything like that. We love reports in various different formats, and the goal is for it to have the impact. So design your report based on what's going to be valuable for you when you get back. Abigail, do you have any more on that kind of thing?
Yeah, just to reiterate, we want like everything else. Hopefully, it's consistent with what we've been saying today. Is it's got to fit your vision for change. It's got to be the format you choose should enable you to have maximum influence. So if a written report isn't going to win over the people you need to win over, then do it. Yeah, we're happy for you to do it in another way. And more people are being more and more creative about how they publish their report. However you do publish it, we can link it to our website so that it's kind of attached to the Churchill Fellowship forever. So I think people find that useful.
Thank you very much. We've got questions about support for freelancers and support for the self-employed, and also about what we're able to fund generally. So Abigail, do you want to take the first part of that about support for freelancers?
Yes, again, it's a bit like my answer to the carers, and I'm sorry it's a bit vague, but it's because we're trying not to like predict and prescribe the kind of support that we offer. We want to understand what you need. So I guess because often we survey people who start applications and don't finish them in order to understand what the barriers might be, and every year there is a significant number of people who say their self-employed status or freelance status means they just can't afford to take time off to go and do a fellowship. So this is an attempt to, I doubt we're going to be able to, support people fully for a period of 4 to 8 weeks, but just to understand like what costs might arise during that period through a fellowship that we could potentially help with, just to make it a bit easier. I guess that's where we're coming from. And it is what we're doing it as a pilot so that we can understand what people want. So we'll be doing it and also learning about it at the same time. So we ask for your generosity in joining us on that journey. But it's a sincere offer, and yeah, we'll be keen to talk to people more. So again, if you want to talk to me and just try and get under all that vague stuff, feel free to email us at the applications inbox, and I'm very happy to chat in a bit more detail about your particular position.
Thank you.
And then,
there's some questions. Sorry, Abigail.
No, it's fine.
Sorry, Abigail.
Just about what a grant comprises, because I may not have made that clear, but yeah, it's the travel, it's the cost of traveling, however you choose to travel. And then internal travel as well. And then we do support living costs. So our rates are reviewed every year, and they're based on what we think it costs you to kind of live in a particular city or town or area day by day. And then obviously we work out how long you're going to be there and how together. And then there are incidental costs as well, like interpreters and vaccinations and visas and things like that.
Thank you very much. Siofra, we've got a question about the publishing of the report, which I think perhaps we haven't made clear that the reports are all published on our website. But I'm wondering what you've done with your report since you've returned from your travels and you've written up.
Oh, I have presented at a lot of conferences from that respect. So I haven't done like I know there's some people that have like their report has been the start of a book. Like there's some people have done like really amazing things with their reports. But from my perspective, I've presented at a couple of like design weeks and sustainability conferences and that kind of thing. But it can be anything and everything, to be honest. It doesn't have to be, as I said, it can be like a published book, but it can also just be an acknowledgement of your experience.
Thank you, that's helpful. There's also very nice comments about it's nice to hear a fellow Irish accent being awarded a fellowship, so that's nice. There's a question about the character limit for questions on the application form, and then also a question about perhaps finding differences in your referees. Usman, do you want to take those two?
Yeah, so with the character limit, I think, if I remember correctly, most of the long answer questions are 1,500 characters long. And what was the question about referees?
So do they need to be from different places of work on different projects?
Well, as long as they're familiar with your work and your projects, your interests, then they'll be good referees.
Thanks, Usman. There's a couple of questions about how the fellowship can support. So one about perhaps the possibility of a supervisor for the project, and another one about deciding on where to travel and when to travel. There's also a question about whether or not we'd consider somebody who's recently retired. So Abigail, do you want to take the question about recently retired, and then I'll go on the other two?
Oh yes, happily. So, well, that's absolutely fine. Yes, no problem at all. We're as I hope we tried to make clear in the presentation, there is no one really that, you know, whatever stage in life you're at, that can't be eligible as long as you're over 18 and you're a UK citizen and you're living in the UK. That's the key criteria. So absolutely, retired status not at all a barrier.
And then so about supervisor and about the support for so the when and where question we can't help with. The when is entirely up to you. That has to fit around your work life, when your employer will allow you to travel, perhaps children or caring requirements. So that's entirely your decision. The where is also down to you. We know that you're the expert in your application and in your field, so you know where you can best learn from. We also don't offer a supervisor. However, you do have access to the hive mind that is our existing nearly 4,000 strong network of fellows. And Siofra, I don't know how you found accessing that network of existing fellows and how that's perhaps supported you in a way that's different from a supervisor, but just as helpful.
Do you mean like within the application process or during my fellowship?
Since your fellowship or during or at any point where you've networked and spoken to other fellows?
Yeah, particularly during the prior in the application process, my neighbor where I grew up got a fellowship, which is like very random, and so he like answered all my questions, and it was really helpful. Definitely, I completely forgot about that he was like very, very useful. And I don't think I spoke to anyone else because Sheehan was very helpful. And so I definitely would suggest if you've got someone that's particularly if they're maybe in the same area that you're looking at, definitely worth reaching out to a former or current fellow. And then during my fellowship, it was actually amazing to have the network because it can be a little bit lonely when you're like on your own for the whole time. And I met a couple of different people that our trips were crossing over for coffees, and it was really fun getting to hear about their experience and what they were saying because they were from completely different sections. So our projects were so different. So that was amazing. And then now being part of the fellowship is great. Like I love going to all the events and hearing what everyone's doing. And as I said, lots of like incredibly passionate people that are like doing really interesting, brilliant things. So it's a great network to be part of.
Thank you. Usman, we have a question about group projects and if someone is working as a pair on a project and whether or not they can both apply with the same project. Do you want to take that one?
I might pass this one on to Abigail.
Okay.
We did have this situation last year. Abigail, could you refresh me on how we went about it?
Yeah, sure. No, unfortunately, we don't support groups or pairs. You have to be on your own. I mean, exactly as Elliot said, we hope the hive mind of the fellowship is helpful, and you don't feel like you're on your own. But the actual award is for an individual grant working on their own to do the learning. So yeah, I'm afraid we're not best suited for group applications.
So we've also got a question on how many referees do we have to put forward and the extent to which you have to talk about yourself on the application form. Usman, do you want to take that one?
So I'm so sorry, I blanked out. What was the question?
Is it how many referees do we need and to what extent do you have to talk about yourself on the application form?
Yeah, so we need 2 referees, and in terms of how much you need to talk about yourself, it's to do with the questions. So we're going to be asking you about either your professional or your lived experience. We do put a lot of emphasis on lived experience as well, and we're really just looking for you to show that you're well suited to be able to tackle the issue that you're applying to make a project about.
Thank you. I think my last questions are there's a couple about policy change and about impact and what exactly that impact could be. So one of them is about, do we accept influence through campaigning? If we're looking for policy change, but the applicant doesn't work in policy, how do we understand that impact and influence? And then the other one is about how substantive is that impact that we consider? Can it be community or sector level rather than at a grand political level? So Siofra, do you want to talk a little bit about the impact that you've had and where you've seen it?
Do you mean like with regards to like the impact from my project?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose the 3 strands that I mentioned with regards to my project, the community impact was with regards to rolling out a series of workshops in the community within North Belfast, and actually I went beyond Belfast. Actually, I went because when people started to see what I was doing, I got asked to go to lots of different places, but I did focus on trying to do it within my own community. And from that, I became like artist designer in residence within a community arts centre in North Belfast. And that was amazing because I was like very much in the middle of everything. And then from an education perspective, I developed a course around sustainable design, and that's what I teach now. Is basically all my teaching is focused around sustainable and circular design. And that is definitely, the fellowship has completely fed into that. And then with regards to my own business, my most recent project, the Farm to Garment t-shirt, was around transparent supply chains. And that was the inspiration of going to the Park Soap Food Cooperative and seeing all the transparency in the food was what developed that project. So there was very clear impact. In 2018, I didn't know I was going to do that project, but I did know that I was very clear on my community and my education-based impact, and I did deliver those things because they weren't like huge. They were like things that I was already doing on a low level, but I wanted to lift them up to the next level. So that's why they were very much achievable.
Thank you. Abigail, do you have anything else to say on impact and where and our levels of impact, but also this question around affecting policy change from outside of policy role?
Yeah, no, that sounds brilliant. I think we all understand policy change happens in lots of different ways and through lots of different methods. So absolutely fine if you're not a policy professional, but you can see how you could influence change at policy level in other ways. That's absolutely, would be really interested in reading more about that. And also, I think I guess we're quite distinctive in the sense that we don't have a standard set of metrics or measures of success, because we understand each fellow is going to go about making change in a different way and will have a different experience and it will take different amounts of time. So again, as we've been saying all the way through, like a golden thread, we're kind of trying to meet you where you are and understand the change you want to make and support you to make that change. So no one's going to come after you and say, what exactly have you done? Why haven't you done exactly what you said? It's a much more, I like to think, generous and supportive relationship. So yeah, I hope that's reassuring in some way.
Thanks, Abigail. One more question about the average amount of applications a person makes before being accepted. This varies significantly, I would say. I'm aware that we have at least one fellow who was successful in the 6th application, but we also do fund sometimes the very first application. So I don't think there's an average as far as I'm aware, Abigail.
No, I think you're right. I think we do support a lot of people on their first time and second time, and then a very small number of people who have applied 5 or 6 times with great stamina, I would say. But don't be disheartened. Exactly as Usman said earlier, you can only apply once a year and only in one programme, but there is no limit on the number of times you can apply, and it doesn't count against you in any way at all. We're really keen to see you come back.
Okay, I think I have one last question on paying for courses and being able to fund a course or online course as part of the fellowship. Typically we don't fund academic courses, so a master's degree is not the kind of thing that we fund, or a postgraduate diploma we can't fund. If there is a short course that can be funded as part of a fellowship, that's a day or a week, that forms part of your larger fellowship, we can consider it, but it tends to be case by case. I think that is all of the questions that I have. It's definitely all the questions I have written down.
Amazing, thank you, Ellie. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with us. And sorry we started a little bit late and edited a little bit late, but thank you. Thanks for your questions as well, because they make it clear the things that we can emphasize a bit more on the website or in this presentation, so it'll get even better. We're doing, as I said at the beginning, we're doing a couple more, and yeah, and look out for the recording, which will go on our website shortly. Thank you very much, and good luck, everybody. We really, really hope that you'll apply and have success. And thank you very much to my colleagues and to Siofra as well for a really inspiring presentation. It was lovely to have you on the panel. Thanks, everyone. Bye.